Hi guys, my name is Fahd Dawood. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I wanted to discuss something very particular, very peculiar. Inevitably, over the last 3 to 4 years, when I'm sitting down with a client and talking to them about how far the Dubai market has come in terms of maturity, even though we agree that it's still maturing, I end up telling them about this period. From 2003 to 2008, it's a very interesting period. 2002, 2003, early 2002, 2003 is when Dubai literally opened up property ownership for anybody from around the globe. First, they opened up leasehold, which means that you could own a property for a certain number of years. That got some traction and some popularity, but when it really took off was when they started doing freehold ownership. And we saw interest from around the world, right? We're talking India, Pakistan, England, France, you name it, and people wanted to buy a property in the sun in Dubai. However, something unique happened that led up to the global financial crisis that occurred in 2007, 2008, and Dubai's own property meltdown. And if you understand what happened and why it happened, you will understand the regulatory framework that the Dubai government has put in place today to ensure that the same thing doesn't happen. Something very simple. Take, for example, a developer. From around the world, they saw that there was opportunity to build and sell apartments in Dubai, came to Dubai, and they approached somebody, let's call him a landowner, who had a piece of land. Simple. Developer comes to the landowner and says, Mr. Landowner, your land seems suitable for a 35-story floor building. I'd like to own it, and I'd like to build some apartments there. Simple, easy. Developer says to the landowner, I'm going to pay you 10% of the land price, and bear with me, I'm bringing the rest pretty soon. Fair, everything's okay till then. Developer takes that land to an architect, a consulting firm, shows them that parcel of land and says, look, tell me the kind of apartments I can build, what kind of tower I can build, make it ready at least on paper. The consultant does that because they get paid for it, right? So the consultant gets money for it. They got their money over here. Then they go to a marketing company and they build, that looks like a brochure, right? With some floor plans, some amenities. We're going to put a tennis court, we're going to put a basketball in the building, etc., etc. Once they've done that, what they generally did was they went to a hotel and the newspapers, booked a big ballroom in the hotel, hired some nice beautiful models, announced the launch. So let's use black here. They announced the launch of this nice, beautiful tower overlooking the water, perhaps even with views of Burj Khalifa, right? What this did was attracted buyers who came in on launch day and pretty much bought the entire building. The only difference is that when they bought all the apartments, they paid only 10%. Obviously, this money, the 10%, went all the way to the developer's pocket. The hotel got their money, so everything in Dubai was booming. The newspapers got their money, and the marketing company got their money. They got paid, right, for services rendered, which is fair because they rendered their services. Now, bear with me, don't get confused on this. Let's assume that this land cost 100 million and the developer had paid the landowner 10% of 100 million, 10%. And from all the money that the developer collected here, the developer now had an extra. $100 million collected from the 10%. Yeah, makes sense? This is what not all the developers did, but a lot of developers did this, right? They took this 100 million, they went to the landowner, they gave him another 70%, which was 70 million. Now, only 30 million was a balance remaining to the landowner. Yeah. But guess what? This 30 million, oh, by the way, once the launch was successful, they announced it in the newspaper that it was all sold out, which further fueled a lot of speculation in the market. With this 30 million, what the developer ended up doing was it went to 3 more landowners and they said, I want to take options on your land, and they paid them 10 million each. Because the developer was pretty certain that he could repeat this, go to the architect, the marketing firm, hotel, newspaper, launch the tower, pretty much sell it, collect more money. Now, why would people continue buying in Dubai? Very simple. Everybody here who paid 10%, and let's assume they paid 100,000, was pretty much easily able to sell this for 125,000 dirhams. So 25,000 dirhams, let's call it profit for lack of a better word. Essentially what they did, these buyers were speculators, including the developer. Let's not blame the landowner yet. Essentially, the developer launched more because they were able to resell every other launch that happened by that same developer or any other developer. You would find that the buyers, and then there were more buyers coming into the market, would go and buy more apartments because they could just resell them to other people. This is the time when in Dubai, these sales were not even recorded in the land department. The land department was there, existed, but people didn't know that these sales had to be registered there, and these were sales being made in coffee shops. Now, the music stopped, so to speak, in 2007 and 2008 when there was this global financial crisis, right? I call it the GFC. Well, it's famously called the GFC, the global financial crisis. When the GFC hit, Lehman Brothers collapsed. A lot of us still thought that Dubai is going to be immune to it, but slowly and gradually, the music started slowing down, and then ultimately it stopped. To the extent where anybody who had bought anything in a building or a tower could now not resell it to anybody else. Now the problem was that all these buyers, not all, I wouldn't say all, but a lot of these buyers had only bought an option on the apartment. They didn't have the money to complete the full payments and take the apartment, take possession of the apartment and take it to 100%. However, as the music stopped, they were left holding 10% ownership in an apartment. Unfortunately, that apartment building was not getting built because the developer took that money and put it in new lands. And now at this stage, the developer had an option. Either they construct this building from their own funds, which a lot of them did not have, or skip town and run away. And a lot of developers unfortunately did that. The smaller developers did that. Whoever was left holding the odorous bag of excrement ended up holding, for instance, no apartment built, 10% only paid. They decided to sue the developer, and then furthermore, they decided to sue the land so that they could recover some of their monies. But the landowner, he in turn decided to sue the developer because he still owed, remember, about 20 million on this. And the land got encumbered in court because the landowner now couldn't do anything with it because they wanted their money back. Slowly and gradually, the entire system in Dubai with the unscrupulous developers who were not scrupulous enough stopped. Even back then and even today, it's true to a large extent that the big developers are safer to a large extent, and they'll generally go through with their work. I and my partner lost money as well at that time, and I think I learned a lot from that. I remember one very large developer, we bought one of their towers. This is a government developer, I'm not going to name it, but we bought in one of their prime downtown buildings. And I remember, I reflected on this, I mean, even at that time, I saw some people over there who were about to buy apartments who had no business buying apartments. And when I quizzed them, they told me, yeah, you know, my uncle sent me money from so-and-so country and he just wanted me to buy this apartment and he's just sent me 10% and I'm supposed to just flip it, right? And I remembered there was a time when in the 1930s, before the stock market in the US crashed, there was one person who pulled out all of his money from the stock market. And then he was asked, how did you know this? He said, very simple. When I was on the street getting my shoes shined, the shoe shine boy gave me a stock tip. And that's when I knew that the bubble's about to burst. And in my heart, when I was there, when I saw this person buying property there and I saw all the people around me who had no business, and I knew that they didn't have the money to complete the transaction, I knew that the bubble was about to burst and things were going to go south. However, don't be scared. The Dubai government was in the process before the crisis of putting in a very robust and strong regulatory framework that till today serves the market very, very well. The number one thing that the Dubai government did was any developer that wants to build any kind of development needs to own the land 100%. Without this, you don't get the necessary approvals to start marketing. Number two, there's something called the escrow account. The escrow account simply states that if a developer is building a building, any money collected for that tower goes into the bank that's related to that project, that tower. Money is released for this construction as per progress, right? And the three parties that oversee this is the land department, the bank themselves, and the consultants. So once the development reaches 20% and the land department, the bank, and the consultant verify it, the bank will release the 20% or the 30% tranche to ensure that the further construction can happen. Which is why in Dubai today, if you're staying away from the unscrupulous, smaller time developers, your money is pretty much solid and safe, pretty much, yeah? You still have to make sure that the developer is escrow compliant and the land is, and it has all the permissions in place to be promoting that project, right? Which is why in Dubai, regardless of how the economy is operating and performing right now, you will see that the developments are still getting completed and getting delivered. So I'm not getting into the regulatory framework too much at this stage, but just know this is what happened in 2003 to 2008. And now Dubai's got a very robust and strong regulatory framework to protect the investor. However, the homework that requires for you to protect your money and the responsibility still lies with you, or use a trusted agent who knows better, right? All the best. I hope this helps. If you've got questions, comment in the bottom or reach out to me on my email. Look forward to talking to you again.